لو
بسم الله
عندي
الرحمن الرحيم. Hi, and welcome to the Adnan Hussein podcast. We've taken it over. Adnan's your no host today, but today your co-hosts are me, Indi Samarjiva, Benji Shodendorf. We have Mikey from the Victims of Capitalism Memorial Fund, and Sina Rahmani from, I guess, Hicksville, Ontario. Right? So I haven't seen the thumbnail for today.
from Xville is the podcast.
Yeah. I think, what are we doing? Tables have turned? Have they turned?
Have they turned?
What's a table? What's the table in question?
I think I'm not sure if it's the Uno table or the Ouija board table. We're going to have to analyze that. One of the two.
So what I've been hearing is that there's a market. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there's some sort of. So the only thing the U.S. seems to follow in terms of like state religion is the markets, and there's some sort of market holiday this weekend. I think like a 3-day weekend or something. So the buzz I've been hearing is that if things are going to pop off, they're going to pop off like this weekend. I know that in Sri Lanka our exchange rate is going crazy, so something weird is happening. And the Iranian guys like Marandi are saying they've always been saying that something's going to happen. I didn't think it would happen the first time, but that's what people are saying. Please take me off center view. It's too much. Mike, what do you think about the tables?
I didn't realize who's hosting or what's happening, so I just
it's chaos since Adnan's gone, right?
I know.
I feel like if any tables have turned, it's kind of U.S. unipolar hegemony after the China visit.
That's the one.
And also, I think
but that visit was quite
Israel
weird. They were
Lebanon.
just there for but what happened in that visit? They seemed like they just went and like had Chinese food and bows.
I think it was a begging tour, basically, right? Because, so there was an article that just came out today, I think under the Washington Post. I mean, they called it a scoop, but it's something pretty much all of us on the left already knew, which is that the U.S. expended like half of its THAAD air defense ordinance during, the 40-day war, and that vastly kind of like proportionally outnumbers the amount of air defense and Iron Dome batteries and Arrow 2, Arrow 3, Jacob Sling air defense that Israel used for their own domestic defense. And multiple missile batteries, Iron Dome batteries, have been taken out by this new FPV drone tactic that Hezbollah is deploying. And I think part of this begging tour is one, just kind of, the contradictions of capitalism in the U.S. hyper intensifying in no small part because of what Trump has done and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. But I also just think, the AI bubble, is a massive sector of the U.S. economy, such that without the AI sector growth, there would be basically no GDP growth for the entire first 2 quarters of 2026, which would make us in a recession. And I think part of this begging tour is to get foreign direct investment from China into the U.S., right? And that's why Trump brought this whole coterie of CEOs, captains of industry with him, right? Was to basically be like, please invest in our companies, and also, please, in the case of Jensen Huang, please buy our chips and graphics cards, and I think I think they probably didn't get much out of it, even though I think China also does very much want to invest in the U.S. I think what they were definitely looking for were relaxations of the ban on second use types of rare earth metals, that, going back to what I kind of tangented off of, needing to replenish military stock, right? Because THAAD batteries, THAAD missiles, they need rare earths to and radar systems. The gym weights that are in the F-35s are supposed to contain high tech radars that are supposed to that are made from rare earths that only China has and only China processes for the most part, right? Up to 90% of certain rare earths. So I think he definitely didn't get those concessions, and I think the fact that they are going hat in hand to China, at least from a lot of people in China and people, even people who are like kind of like the economists, or just imperialist rags, have noted that this visit was historic in a way, kind of like another heralding of the very open decline of U.S. empire, which I think was much more hidden prior to, say, October 7th. I think I think COVID definitely tore open some of that mask, and China's response, the ability to build a hospital in like several weeks, and China's kind of opening up to visa-free tourism, have kind of shown people in the developed world that there are other worlds being created, and the U.S. looks very backwards and decrepit by contrast. So I think if any of them, if we were to pick just one table that has turned for this episode, I would say it's that. But also, I think the fact that Israel, I think, has never been more publicly on the back foot in the past couple of years than what we're seeing happening in southern Lebanon, where like a lot of what we're seeing right now is Hezbollah FPV drone operators like just trying to find adequate targets. like the a lot of these bases now are completely abandoned, and also like they've hit so many strategic targets. There was one in particular where that dropped just recently, where I'm not even sure if the cost benefit, it was maybe the first time that the cost benefit ratio was closer to equal, where that $500 worth of ordnance and FPV, I can't remember, but it was not significant. But it was it was a real testament to the upper hand that Hezbollah now has. I think they have air dominance in a certain sense. Yeah.
There's a lot of good points there. So let's go through maybe if we're talking about tables turning, you talk about the AI bubble. So the whole Western economy is like a pyramid scheme, I suppose. Colonialism has been from the beginning. But at the top of the pyramid scheme, you got AI. And at the bottom, that requires energy. All these data center build-outs, not just, even the concrete, pouring that requires energy. But once you plug the stuff in, they're talking about adding, small countries worth of energy to the grid. And what on earth is Mikey drinking? But so what the table around is turning is they're threatening the energy base of that. And you can see that AI pricing now it's still not accurate, but they're raising pricing on products to a point where it like makes sense. And now people I think Microsoft is telling people to sort of, for a long time, they've been telling people burn tokens will measure you based on how much you burn tokens. The models actually get less and less efficient as they advance. But that's sort of the cherry on top of this shit sundae. And that thing is teetering.
Yeah. And, speaking of tables turning, the first table is, I was, making a bit as a joke. It's like a seance where you make the tables turn with the Ouija board. And this, after all, is the AI planned war, right? The first target bank was actually planned over the weekend just before the assault. And we know, of course, now, I think there isn't a day where I don't see 2 or 3 research papers about AI, about the sycophancy of AI, the fact that if you tell AI now, I think if you ask AI if you should do something really, really immoral and dishonest, like 47% of the time it's going to say, yeah, it's a great idea. 30% of the time it's going to say, ask me another question and I'll tell you it's a great idea. And 20% of the time it's going to say, actually, you need to buy new tokens for me to answer the question. And what is happening is I just saw this thing today that what some company has just canceled their AI thing because the prices have gone up so high that they have spent all their tokens in the past, in the first 3 months, they spent their whole token budget for the year. So even those who are trying to eke a profit, replacing actual people by AI, which actually no company has managed to make money out of that, are now being bled dry. And I wish I could remember the one. I have it somewhere. Oh yeah, it's Microsoft, right? So Microsoft, who's one of the 4 horsemen of the AI apocalypse, and part of this kind of
they're cutting their cloud budget
of a circle jerk of financing, where they're financing NVDA and NVDA, who's investing into OpenAI, who's investing into Microsoft. It's kind of crazy thing, but they've actually canceled their internal code licenses this week, right? And many companies are in the same position at the same time as data centers are being canceled. I think, was it Jamie Dimon last week who said, or the guy from NVDA who said, well, we just have to increase energy production by 1,000. I think it was the NVDA guy, and then everything will be fine. Oh yeah, and Jamie, was it Dyson from Chase said, yeah, don't worry, once everything is run by AI, you guys will get free healthcare. So that's probably the next donor to AOCIA's campaign slush fund, right? And so those tables have turned, and the tables have turned in the sense that the people who are now holding the table are the Iranians, very much so. And one table they are holding very firmly onto is the toll booth table in the Strait of Hormuz, which the Chinese, in their typical Chinese way, have rechristened. It's more like an environmental impact mitigation fund or something. And the Iranians said, oh, that's a great idea. And by the way, those Meta, Google, and what have you cables going to the Strait of Hormuz, they should also contribute to that environmental fund. So that's how the tables have turned, and it's very. I'm still predicting that the US can't stop itself. Emotionally, there's a part of me that doesn't want it to stop itself. Then that part of me goes, yeah, but it's very easy for you to kind of, be very generous with the blood of our siblings in West Asia. And also the other thing, if are they turning the tables towards Cuba? It might be also part of my worry. And before I've concluded my remarks, but I wanted to say a few words about our fundraisers for tonight. So we actually have in the chat, brothers and sisters, Ibrahim, who are the regular viewers of Resistance is Fertile will know, because we've been fundraising for him, and also he's kind of arranged the other fundraisers that I fundraised for in Gaza. So welcome, Brother Ibrahim. It's quite amazing to me that you are in the chat from Gaza. So maybe we can put up your fundraiser. Why not? And I think Sina, you also had some to show. We're also fundraising this week for Lifeline for Gaza, which allows you to help those Gaza fundraisers that have had the least over the past period. And that's a wonderful, wonderful initiative, of course. And now over to you, Sina.
Hi, guys. Sorry we're a bit late. Sorry it's a bit chaotic. It was less chaotic than last time.
We're
This
improving.
time, what's funny
you
is
have
that,
the links to the fundraisers, Sina. Sorry to interrupt.
Yes, I do. I have mine.
Yes.
I have mine, and I'll post it to all destinations right now. That's the one I'm bringing to the table this week. Iman in Gaza. She is responsible for a lot of orphans. You can sort of read the link there, but we can talk more about it later too. But in terms of sort of overall I actually was like, when I saw the title, I was like, what? What does that mean? Because there actually, like, what has happened is that the reality is, it's that like people are walking away from the table. Is that it's like the US, the word that keeps like coming back to me all week long or recently is anachronism. Like the US empire is an anachronism. It's how it wages war is an anachronism. It's like
Sorry, could you
Jewish
define that word?
ethno-state racist anachronism, out of time. It's like it's from the same root as spider. No, I don't know. I'm just kidding. Anachronism. It's basically like basically
anachronism.
like against,
I get it now. Yeah.
yeah, like against time, but like basically like and for me, I've always understand it like when you say, oh, something's anachronistic, people say that it's like, it feels like it's the word expired, which is true, but it's more that in something like this, it's not that the US, it's not that like when you talk about an empire expiring, it's more that it's way that it built, that it does that's imperializing, which is how it empires, is no longer viable. Like that it could get chased out so thoroughly, humiliated so brutally, just to have everything and achieve nothing, and on top of that lose all of its investments for 30 years, and something much more difficult in some ways, because that stuff, at least in theory, could be replaced, which it can't. Sorry, but as Mikey pointed out, that was a 30-year buildup that like you just can't like. You can't do like Star Trek Replicator. But something else was lost too, which was that sense of, stability. And like it's about, the US was a bouncer at like the nightclub called West Asia. And bouncers, as you know, it's pretty clear, they aren't an army, right? That like if you like fight a bouncer and beat a bouncer up, the bouncer's power has been exposed as like ultimately fictitious. So Iran basically like used its not extensive, by the way, military buildup, right? Like Iran's military buildup is pretty light. It's just the nature of the war that it fights requires things like a Shahed. A Shahed, and I've said this many, many times, like the Shahed and the style of that kind of warfare is the future, which is like small localized munitions. Like the lie that the US empire told us in the early 90s, we all remember obviously like the smart bombs or whatever, and how that was part of this psyop, that actually has come into fruition in the form of these low-cost drones from the global south. The global south equalized a certain kind of warfare, and in doing so rendered the US out of time. It's just everything's so expired about the US, and so it's more that the tables have been turned on the US, definitely militarily, that the whole exposure of the US and its inability to actually influence actors in the region, which is to say its enemies, into behaving the way it wants to, no longer exists. And on top of that, the precedent that Iran is setting, whereby the second class role that it was relegated to during all these years of American siege, will no longer be tolerated. And it's like a twofold way. And the one way that they're saying that, okay, if you want to keep enjoying the, say, internet link between Europe and Asia, you better pay us. You better let us manage that. Who knows? Like, what are they up to? Like, does the US secretly tap these cable lines? Obviously. Like, does the US, like, what kind of fuckery? So, like, why can't Iran assert its influence over its sovereignty? So, like, that itself is a radical gesture, because up until this point, global South countries were supposed to sit and take their position in the global supply chain. So, this war that the imperialists started unleashed a chain of events that are authoring new forms of sovereignty for the global South. There will come a time where and then we're probably here, the Westoids, right? Because that was the world that it created, benefited us first and foremost. But we will look back at like pre-February 2026 as like the halcyon days when everything was available and everything was right. And after that, it's now a new world. Like it's Condoleezza Rice's like, enunciation in 2006 that like, what was the famous line? God, no, I just alluded to it, but I immediately forgot it. The birth pangs of a new Middle East, she says. But it's more that it's not the birth pangs of a new Middle East. It's more that this is a new world system, and a system that has just, passed the U.S. by. It really is. It really feels that way. Like one example, small. The incredibly diminished role of, say, like the U.S. culture industry, aka Hollywood. Is this true? Did a Star Wars movie come out today, like in theaters and stuff? Like, did that happen, or am I?
Yeah, apparently there's no
I've heard,
spoilers
like,
because
rumblings
nothing
of-
happens.
Yeah, no, a 2-hour Comcast
so-
commercial came out today.
Yeah, it's like something Grogu
Oh.
and some Mandalorian.
Mandalorian and Grogu.
So compare that to when we were kids and Star Wars was like this huge psyop because they had us as this captive population. The US feels like such an afterthought right now. And all of its demands, all of its blustering, it's pathetic. Like Pete Hegseth is such a perfect figure for this kind of empty, hollow chud nothingness. And we get to watch it. We get to sit like with our popcorn and watch this decline happen. I'm curious to the extent to which the ruling class of the West are going to initiate okay, we're going to drag you down to hell with us procedure. Because I don't see them doing like the Dylan Thomas, like they're not gonna go gentle into the good night. Like they're not. They're gonna rage. They're gonna rage against the dying of the light.
Yeah, rage
We're all
against the
fucked.
dying of the white. Yeah, that's what I said.
Like this, that's what I mean. Israel is the cutting edge of that in a way. That's what it like. Israel is an expression of the death pangs of the U.S. empire. Zionism's death pangs itself is one of the sort of manifestations of it. So. And the violence over and its violent nature as it goes down, we're all witnessing. Yeah. So I'm at a point where, it's we I don't know. It will be the U.S. has to do something. This current moment that it's in, it can't stay. Something has to change for it because clearly, easy W's don't do anything. But yeah. Oh, we got 2 donations right away. Thank you.
Oh, great. Anachronism is a very good point because if you look at this historically, the last 500 years have been an anachronism. The idea that England could project power in Sri Lanka, or even the idea that the US could project power in Iran, like they're nowhere near there. They're 10,000 kilometers away. There has to be like some weird technological glitch that even allowed that to happen. Historically, Defender has an advantage that's somehow been obliterated by fighter jets and aircraft carriers. But that was a sort of moment in time. And what you can see is, you talk about a new world, but it's kind of returning to the old world where it is costly to attack someone 10,000 kilometers away. I think Sri Lanka attacked Myanmar once and we just got like our ass handed to us and we came back. Like it's not like projecting power like that is costly and destructive. China sent its treasure ships out and they came back because it was costly and like wasn't effective. There was somehow this weird anachronism where that worked, but now the rest of the world has like sort of caught up and adapted to, well, maybe not even the rest of the world. I guess in Sri Lanka we haven't adapted, but Iran has shown that you can adapt and that you can establish, the basic sort of, there's this paper by Spuds McKinsey or whatever, like it's called The Tyranny of Geography, and they talk about their basing posture in the US and how it's just unsustainable because, as Benji likes to point out, like geography is oppressing them. But there is just sort of rules of geography that have gotten written out, which Iran is sort of reapplying again because they have shown technology. So their budget is probably like 1 aircraft carrier, right? But they've shown that used quite intelligently can actually lead to sort of a next paradigm of warfare, which in many ways is the old, there's that constant battle between sword and shield, between fortress and siege weapon, and they usually kind of like match up. There might be a few years or a few hundred years where the sword outpaces the shield, which we've lived through for 500 years, but now the shield is outpacing the sword again, or it's matching the sword at least. So yeah, anachronism is a good point, but we're returning to, I guess what's the opposite of that? A chronism.
Yeah, and Mikey, you want to go?
Yes. I want to touch on or expand on something, Benji, that you had mentioned. A study that recently came out in March of this year. Stanford did an AI study, and it's recently gone viral. I'm gonna share my screen here. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah,
So
and the AI component is important because this is like, God willing, where the bubble pops. So we're all waiting for it's like that meme of someone poking something with a stick waiting for it to die. That's how I feel.
yes. So this was a study on sycophantic AI.
Yeah.
And how it incentivizes and kind of develops antisocial behavior in people. And this study was particularly for young people, many of whom were in either friendships or romantic relationships, and consulted AI exclusively in this study to see if their behavior was okay, or if they were in the wrong, or if they were related, if they were relating well with their partner, or if they needed to work on it in the same way you would talk to a human friend. And so here's some of the more fascinating results. I'm just going to read this whole thing right here. We find that sycophancy is both prevalent and harmful. Across 11 AI models, AI affirmed users' actions 49% more often than humans on average, including in cases involving deception, illegality, or other harms. On posts from Am I the Asshole, AI systems affirm users in 51% of cases where human consensus does not, at 0%.
Oh my God.
0%. So in AI, I mean, like, if anyone's not familiar, I think most of you, if you're watching this, are familiar with Am I the Asshole? Anyone who's posting there is always the asshole.
Is the asshole, yes.
Yeah, and so the fact that AI affirms that behavior by 51% from various models it's pretty incredible. And the reason behind this is, of course, capitalism, right? Because the reason that AI operates on a sycophancy kind of system is to incentivize further interaction with it. They want you to have a good time and to literally feel validation from your interaction with their product, right? Because if they're going to tell you hard truths, they're not like a friend. You can drop them or your subscription service with them at any time, right? Whereas with a friend, you have to contend with them and with the hard truths they may be relaying to you, because they are a human being in the real world that you have to continue to build a life with and share a life with, right? Whereas with this, it's like, if you don't like what you're hearing from this machine, you can just turn it off or uninstall it, right? Uninstall that app. And I think this kind of speaks to the broader edifice, I think, of what Indi wrote about so brilliantly, about how capitalism is the original AI, right? And by that meaning, like, an artificially constructed simulacrum of reality that stands in the place of living labor, and kind of creates this fantasy narrative, but also kind of a fantasy world where profits can be endlessly generated and all costs can be externalized to working people and to the planet, to land and waters, without any type of consequence. And I think in terms of the tables turning, right, on the geopolitical scale, I think what is happening over the past couple of months is this kind of edifice of artificial intelligence being revealed for what it is, right? Where, like in the movies, where the Blade Runner kind of like model character starts glitching out, right? It's kind of reached the apex of the Voight-Kampff test, and it's failing. And I think like like Trump created this kind of entire incentive structure, very similarly to a sycophantic AI, but for his administration, right? Where he intentionally rewarded sycophancy and just total unquestioning loyalty, rather than relying on people providing him with solid intelligence and sound strategy, particularly with respect to, should I go to war with Iran or not, right? Like anyone who told him, hey, that might be a bad idea, and the first thing they'll do is close the Strait of Hormuz, he had Pete Hegseth fire them, right? And so he basically, used his place in power as the president of the strongest empire in the history of the world as his own kind of like AI chatbot, where he just kind of like, funneled all of the responses that he wanted into training this algorithm until he got the answers he wanted. And, he picked these small battles that were easily, winnable, like Venezuela, torturing Venezuela and Cuba, so that he could say that he's eked out these easy wins. And then meanwhile, his AI chatbot is constantly validating his decisions, being like, you go, bro, this is going to be just like Venezuela. You're on a roll. Why stop here? You're not the asshole. Just keep going. And I think reality is really smacking him in the face. And I think Israel is experiencing something very similar in southern Lebanon, where they've, of all people who have constructed an entirely artificial, stand-in for the real world, Israel is probably the prime example of it, right? They've got like an extermination camp Disneyland masquerading as a country, and I think we're really seeing, the seams starting to wear, the animatronics starting to glitch out and making the children cry. And I think like there's something I think really telling about the very overwhelming negative public response from Israelis to the FPV drones. Like, where anyone who had any kind of like remaining fantasies about the invulnerability or the inevitability of the Israeli colonial Greater Israel project, right? It's falling apart with these tiny drones. Reminding them that the real world doesn't operate on their terms.
Yeah, someone
Just
mentioned
one
the
quick-
prince.
Wait, one quick thing. I've got a cat, so if we get 2 more donations, I will show the cat. Sorry, go ahead, Benji.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had quite a few donations already for both Ibrahim and Iman. So thank you very much, chat. You stand undefeated, as I think the super cool podcasters do say. So, and look at that. Oh my God. Okay. So, and if you add another 2 donations, you'll see the cat again.
Sorry, Benji, go ahead.
Right. Yeah. Victory. You keep saying that word, but I don't think it means what you think it means. Anyway.
No, but that's a good connection. Yeah, like the sycophancy, like AI is. Benji talks about how they're using AI for war. It's not good for like what we consider like a strategic war, but if you just want to blow up some hospitals and schools, it'll go along with that.
Actually, it's not good for that even. I mean, it's not good for anything smart. Like the madness is at some whatever Ivy League conference in 1954, 53, some guy thought, I'm going to call machine learning AI because, that should sell, artificial intelligence. Yeah. And then they eventually started to believe the hype. They eventually started to believe this thing could be really intelligent. So rather than use it as a very advanced form of automated task management within precise context, which it can do very brilliantly, they actually started using it for doing the intelligence stuff, like, advising folks as to whether this is a good idea. What do you think about that? What should I say to this person? I said this. Do you think that was a good idea? The sort of soft skills that are never captured by any algorithm, because it's something you learn with constant interaction between the organism and the environment that is not replicable, not even if you increase your computing power by 1,000, because you still have this problem of somehow you're a brain in a vat, like, those liberal philosophical thought experiments used to make us think about when I was a philosophy student many, many moons ago. And but it's very interesting also because the AI project is, in a very interesting way, kind of Ali Kadri accumulation by waste on steroid, right? You have this very funny phenomenon in which, like, every time since 1981 or so, since the neoliberal revolution in the North, that the working class has been trying to improve a little bit or increase a little bit the spoils of the imperial loot. Every time the answer has been, oh no, that'd be really bad for jobs. This would be really bad for jobs. More healthcare, that'd be bad for jobs. Better pay, that'd be bad for jobs. Better public education, that'd be bad for jobs. Everything's going to be bad was going to be bad for jobs, and you couldn't have any of the nice things. Again, sharing the imperial loot. And suddenly AI comes along and says, oh, that is great. That is going to reduce jobs by 50% and everything we're going to. But it is really the logic of that genocidal AI that extracts profit. Go back to Marx. It extracts profit out of the most living thing in humans, their creative labor, and turns it into that stuff we call surplus value. And the logic of this is you kill them. Like, if you turn living thing into dead stuff, then kill them, make them die earlier. Yeah, but science is allowing Americans to live longer, but at what cost? At the cost that you have to keep them alive longer. Kill them. And if you can get rid of 50% of the workforce, great. I mean, it takes you to a utopia. I think on that side is a utopia in which you're just some guy sitting in a penthouse somewhere with machines doing all the work. Except machines aren't smart. Machines aren't human. They're not intelligent. They don't have this living force of creative application of their consciousness to the living world, and therefore they can't replace humans. And this is where the bubble is going to burst. And meanwhile, because it's hard to know, part of the bubble was kind of this. People really believing it, but most of it was like just a scam. I mean, it's no accident that this Sam Altman, who's the scammiest of all scammers in a place, Silicon Valley, that is actually built on scams mostly. And he was selected by Peter Thiel because of that, because of his ability to scam everybody and to never tell a truth, not even to support another lie. And so those guys know, and meaning that they will, and he keeps on reminding us, they will extract value. They will, go on those schemes of trying to do another thing. I'll go to China, maybe the markets will move. I'll do this, maybe the markets will move. I'll do this, maybe the markets will move. And there's no tomorrow for those guys. It's just, I think literally Trump's attention span is also the length of their strategic thinking, which at this point is all financial, because that's all they've got left.
Yeah, cometh the hour, cometh the man. I think he is the man for like the sort of bust out, leverage buyout of America. With AI, I think, so I invite everybody to go and listen to Benji's interview with the explosive media guys on Pascal, I think, what's it called? Neutrality Studies, is that one? On that podcast.
It's also on our YouTube
okay,
channel.
it's on our one as well. So that's very interesting because it shows, so we talk about AI as a sort of monolithic thing, but AI has actually been used, is being used in different ways. So in China, like, so I have a Huawei phone and like all the apps are in Chinese, and so I actually use DeepSeek sometimes to figure out like what's on the Chinese internet and like how to use the damn thing. And I find that DeepSeek isn't very sycophantic, and which I find annoying. Sometimes I'm like, I want to do this, and it's like, no, like it's like, just, no, it doesn't work, and I'm just like,
DeepSeek doesn't want to produce summaries of your interventions on the podcast because apparently it's been trained by what's it called, the thing in the US, the Anti-Defamation League.
Oh, for me, okay, yeah, yes. So DeepSeek I find like frustrating because but what it does is it searches the Chinese internet, which I can't do on my own. And you can see that's a different model of AI that they have in China, and they're obviously not centering they're making it part of their economy, but it's not their whole economy, and then it's not to the point of like social destabilization as a seeming goal. And then if you look at the way Iran is using it, they're using it differently. So in that interview with the explosive media guys, he constantly refers back to like, this comes from our culture. This comes from our faith. This comes from our people. He's never like, I'm so brilliant and like this technology makes me more brilliant. It's still coming from a different place. You can see that they're using AI very differently. So the tool is not, I used to think it was necessarily evil, but I think now maybe it's not necessarily evil. It's sort of AI hooked up to Western capitalism, which like everything it can like turn to shit. It can like make frozen yogurt somehow toxic. Like everything it can make shit. But in other hands, it need not be total shit.
I guess I mean I do want to take it back to one thing though, putting aside the question of AI. Is Trump actually in charge? Like, we're not, this isn't, we have to really, like, the Epstein stuff was not just at some, like, that, like, this guy was their project. This guy is everything to them. He's their greatest investment. He is their scion. Everything that they want, this guy is. He, in terms of Zionists and what they like, he is a race bait warrior. He's like a race, like stokes up racial animosity, uses that to compel like other races to go and vote and help, basically accelerate that agenda. He's obviously like a sycophantic Zionist. His biggest backers are genocidal Zionists. This guy is a Zionist project, and yet partly that, and this goes back to like the question of this episode. I hope I have the right mic selected. God, please tell me I have. Yes. Which is like the tables turning, which is like, yeah, this is the greatest project, the flowering. This guy is like the greatest flowering of the greatest like like covert influence op you've ever seen is this guy, and the entire country basically hates him. Like he is the most hated one. He will go down as one of the most hated, pathetic, fraudulent presidents. Even his own base will abandon him. Chuds don't like him. They know. Like all of this chaos of the Iran war will be his legacy. Nothing else. Like nothing will be remembered about him. This will be it. And so I wonder in all of this is that if we can, one way that we could really hurt Trump collectively is if we basically just say over and over again, remind the planet until we die that he was just like a Zionist puppet. Like he was just an Epstein freak, pedo, rapist, murderer. God knows what crimes he's committed that they have on film. And this is a dark reality of our world, that our ruling class consists of these people, but also even more evil people who blackmail those evil people. So this is like, and all of this goes through, this genocidal, racist, ethno-state project, right? And so I just think that it's comforting sometimes to think that like, oh, what drove this? What's the root of this thing? But the conspiratorial reading really is like the most convincing one here. Like the U.S. empire did not need this war with Iran. It gave away all of everything it built was destroyed in this war. This was a calamity. So why would they allow it? Like, if not that there was something like I will go to my grave and it won't make sense. Like, why? What was it on that meme? Like, what was
I think it makes sense.
What was the reason?
I think it makes sense.
This
look
war
at it like
makes sense?
Yeah, look at it like a leverage buyout. Like it's like Toys R Us, right? Like if private equity takes over Toys R Us, like what do? They like destroy it. Like that's how you make the money. Like if you look at just the basic mafia business model, like what do you do to a restaurant? You don't like make good food and keep it going for 20 years. Like who cares? You bust it out. You sell stuff out the back. Like they made money on the weapons. They're making money on the oil right now. You make like money now, and then you bust out the whole thing, and then you light a match. Like the Goodfellas explains American politics to me. If you look at it as like, oh, what would a state do? Yeah, of course, it's stupid. Like, why would you blow up your basing structure? You had a good, stable income for like, they could have kept going for 100 years. Like, we would have let them rule. Like, everybody, even China, everybody would have let them rule.
That's what I don't understand. They could
but look how much money you can make this quarter, man. Look how much money you can make tomorrow. Like,
I don't know.
Yeah, Trump
but
isn't
I
making
don't know.
governing decisions. He's making financial decisions, right? Like
Does he make any decisions?
I really do think that he's making decisions. I don't think that he's a puppet in the same way that I don't think that Israel is merely a puppet of the United States, right? They started out as a settler colony that then very quickly became a U.S. vassal, but now it's kind of something else where it's still entirely dependent on U.S. defense and U.S. finance capital, but it has this kind of like rogue element operating out where the tail can sometimes wag the dog, right? Not entirely, right? The U.S. can decide to pull out and may pull out of the region at any time, and then Israel will be fucked and on its own, and there's nothing that Israel can do once Trump, or the ruling class in the U.S. makes its mind that it's over. In a similar sense, I think that Trump, he's not like, an authoritarian, dictator whose word shapes every decision in U.S. policy. What I think he is, though, I don't think we should undersell the aberrate. No, it's not an aberration. It is the apotheosis of the U.S. Imperial project. I think this is what I told a lot.
You got to find that one also. Sorry.
Oh yeah. It's the final form. It's the final boss of U.S. empire. I think it's what it's all leading to. He's the Louis Bonaparte of the U.S. I think it's every decision, every kind of economic and political trajectory of U.S. empire has led to a Donald Trump. First as strategy with George W. Bush, and now as farce, right? And I think that endless kind of need to generate profit with the tendency of the rate of profit to fall has escalated the level of desperation and installed a leader who is as impulsive and self-interested enough and principleless enough to execute on that desperate need to continue to accumulate capital. Regardless of the rational, gaming out how it would actually end, right? Because, like Indi mentioned, there are very easy and assured near-term profits to be made, especially when you have the president of the United States doing insider trading with zero consequences, right? And I think this goes back to this kind of like AI feedback loop, right? Where the very stock markets that Trump is rigging through insider trading also validates his increasingly like suicidal foreign policy decisions, which then encourages him to double down on the market manipulation and increasingly risky decision making, which will cause him to continue to juice the stock market, which validates his riskier decision making, and on and on and on, and it'll snowball until it stops working. And then it's like that quote from The Sun Also Rises, when that guy was asked like, how did he lose all of his money, and he said gradually and then suddenly, right? I think it's gonna. I think the U.S. economy is going to break soon, sometime, and it'll.
So I think it's already broken. They're just like pretending.
Yeah. But
It's like I'm gonna walk it off. But wait, sorry, I just want to interject with a bit of Césaire because based on what you were saying. So Césaire says, at the end of capitalism, which is eager to outlive its day, there is Hitler. And he said, no one colonizes innocently. No one colonizes with impunity either. That a nation which colonizes, a civilization which justifies colonization, therefore force, is already a sick civilization. A civilization which is morally diseased, which irresistibly, progressing from one consequence to another, one denial to another, calls for its Hitler. I mean, it's punishment. So in that sense, Trump is its Hitler, and America calls for him.
Yeah. Well, I just want to thank the two people who have donated to both Iman and Ibrahim. You guys are absolute stars. I hope you encourage others to do the same, whether you're watching live or you're watching later on. Our siblings in Gaza need absolutely every single penny we can send to them. As I always say, even if you donate only $1, it does something material to them that supports them. If you can give more, of course, give more, and never give out of guilt, or to switch or whatever color guilt, but give because you are materially supporting, participating to resistance as existence. I think there's something going on when we think about Trump, and we go around in circles a lot. The way the US is organized is you have this figure, it's been a guy up until now, who makes the final decision between kind of two options that are completely massaged for him, right? And so in terms of which decisions are put in front of him, I think anything goes. And the fact that there could be compromise, that clearly there's, reams of videos with Trump doing all sorts of demonic stuff, is also part of what is put on the table, right? And it becomes very, very hard to decipher what happens. And the guy is literally a con artist. So inside of this is also trying to con the system in a way. And this is why you see all that insider trading, which isn't part of the people pushing the decisions to him, unless, of course, they are in the insider trading scheme. But what it shows is the US has gone from a rational capitalist imperialist machine to complete degenerations where the biggest scammers rise to the top. It's a little bit like all the arcs of those mafia movies or whatever. The leadership degenerates. The most brutal, unthinking thugs tend to rise up to the top, and you see exactly the same in Silicon Valley, right? Which possibly in the late 80s, 90s, 2000 was actually built on real innovation. But these days, it's just a bunch of scammers. Like I just saw this thing today that Google as a system, there was a whistleblower from Google, the Do No Harm company, if you remember, right? Which actually actively scouts the world for every single new app that's possible. And of course, Google gathering data for everything most of the people do. I think they have 40-60% monopoly on browsers. So they see what everybody does, or on Android also. So they see which apps are rising and becoming successful, and they literally steal them. And they literally steal them and create an alternative.
And that's the Amazon model as well. Amazon will make generics out of stuff that sells.
And they do what they do, and they do what they do on YouTube, right? You get Professor Jiang rising to 2 million in 2 months out of nowhere, and you get Sina Rahmani or, our good selves who are staying in the doldrums, when, of course, what we deserve is to have 20 billion audience, including galactic. And this is what's happening. So the acceleration, and why does it do this? Because it's the internal contradictions of the system, right? It's financialized itself. And what is a financialized world, except if not a world built on absolute bullshit? It's narrative. It's just stories about the possible future. And I can model this in a very complex, almost physics-like dynamic system modeling computer. And then I can scam the next guy who can't compute the 50th move of just narrative stuff. And then you have matter coming back on the table and putting stuff on the table. Here's a Shahid drone. Try and do futures. Try and crash the futures market on Shahid drones when it's blowing up your hotel window of your data, where your CIA station manager has hid himself in the UAE or something. And this is what's happening to this thing. And the same goes with China. They go to China with loads of bullshit, and the Chinese go, well, yeah, it's interesting. If anyone has 10 minutes to waste and they're like me trying to learn Mandarin, I invite you to go and watch the press conference from the spokesperson from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of China just after Trump left. It's 10 minutes of answering absolutely no question. And then say, Shago one tea, next question. But it just, The policy is always the same. You can refer to this document. The declaration of the Politburo says this. The Central Committee said that. You can see this. We are going to continue doing this. We are going to continue doing that. It's all the same. Nothing has changed. In the most flowery bureaucratic language that you can imagine, 10 minutes of this, no question answered. In other
Well,
words,
these sort of meetings,
this
like
did
normally
nothing.
you would go to sign something. So there would have been months, if not years, of work leading up to these visits. Trump is treating it like something's going to happen at this visit. Like China's going to he's not doing any prep work. He's like flying by the seat of his pants, so to speak. But so to return to sort of like what Sina is saying, that with the question he had, like why do they act so stupid? I did a post on like why America's doing such dumb shit and like why they can't stop. And I think if you look at capital as an AI, it can't perceive stuff the way we do. So there's an old experiment which is based on like an algorithm, sort of pre-AI, but it told this algorithm move forward. Like you have some blocks, like and build something and move forward. So what the algorithm figured out was if I stack these blocks up and like so high that they fall over, that is forward motion. And like that, so it built something that just kept crashing. And like when I was learning touch typing in school, we figured out that we had a game where you touch type, you move faster. We figured out if you just held down the letter E, the guy on screen would fall over a lot, but he would like move forward faster. So you have to understand that the machine, like capital is a different life form. It has a different metabolic process. It uses energy in different ways. And for a while, there was a graph. Do you think you could put that up? Like for a while, the sort of our rate of reproduction and capitalist reproduction kind of matched, but now they're splitting. So this is a graph showing the Wall Street S&P, which is effectively the I guess the lifeline of capitalism, lifeline of that AI. And then this is the UMich sort of consumer sentiment study, or it's an opinion poll, but it shows how consumers feel, and then the Wall Street is like how rich people feel. And as Marx said, rich people are just stand-ins for capital. They may have the appearance of motion, but in fact these things move through them. But you can see that there's this big bifurcation between the artificial world and the natural world, and this delta is widening, and this is sort of like the central. I don't know if this is the central contradiction, but this is a contradiction that's snapping, and we're seeing this moment where they're inflating the artificial world more and more and more, and the natural world, what we call is like animals' reality, is being like I would like a word. And there's a lot of graphs like that happening now. There's a lot of these like weird bifurcations, like in terms of like oil, like futures oil and like oil in the tank. What else is bifurcating? Yeah, like I guess Trump's statements and his like ability to, like Trump's mouth and his ability to like his checks and his ass's ability to cash them.
Well, I think what we're seeing, more than I think the main thing we're seeing with the U.S. is the continuing bifurcation of reality and the wish casting of the entire edifice of the U.S. financial system, right? But I think what we're seeing more of outside of the first world is kind of like a closer merging between nation states, kind of like stated political projects and achievements validating that political project in reality. And I think we're also seeing kind of like this these long-standing principal contradictions getting closer and closer to being resolved or kind of transmuted through the interpenetration of opposites, right? The fact that Iran and China have been so much defined by the threat of the United States, particularly through sanctions, where they've been forced to innovate and become sovereign and to develop a completely indigenous manufacturing base across the entire supply chain for many critical products and resources. And what we're seeing as a result of that, I think, is China and Iran, rapidly replacing the U.S. as trusted world powers who can be negotiated with, who can be traded with, who can have multilateral relations with, rather than unilateral kind of exploitative relations. And I think I think one big example with respect to China is not just the rare earths, but very much connected with the AI war and the chip war when the U.S. iced out China from basically the entire chip manufacturing supply chain, including their U.S. allies, like I think it's like in the Netherlands they have one company, this ASML company that manufactures um, really high
Lithography.
capacity, high speed chips through a lithography machine, a really advanced lithography machine where there's basically only one place in the world that makes it, and barred their access to it. And they simply assumed that China would not be able to get to that same level of advanced lithography within a decade or several decades, because that's how long it took the Western countries. But thanks to the brilliant engineers and scientists within China, and they managed to poach some of the original employees at ASML who developed the machine. They were able to create their own advanced lithography machine just this year. And they produced several different versions of it and are now testing them against each other to see which one does it the most efficiently and the fastest. And how they accomplished it also was in part by training advanced AI on troubleshooting certain manufacturing problems that they had. So this is kind of an example of AI being used for good, but also to that would not have happened had the U.S. not iced China out of the entire global supply chain, right? And in the same sense that Iran became 90% food sovereign because of these terrible sanctions placed upon them, the way that they've created a massive steel industry and manufactured their entire a significant portion of their domestic missile defense and their entire military apparatus, right? Like there is kind of like this assertion of sovereign development that can no longer really be held back in the way it used to by the United States. And they're definitely still doing it in countries where they have overwhelming power and overwhelming leverage to do it against, right? Like Venezuela, like Cuba to some extent, right? But even there, I think like I think the U.S. will continue to try to quadruple down on those vicious genocidal political projects, but hopefully I think like even that won't be kind of like a long-term sustainable effort. I guess we'll see.
I want to bring it back to the question before this though, is that why do this? Because I want to show you a graph, and it's like I have cited this graph so many times, because to the point where like if I remember where I was when I first looked it up, to like the scale, and I was not like a political person those days. I was like knee deep in like highly irrelevant literary criticism. So I was just more curious about what that actually meant. And it was like the mid 2010s. And I was trying to understand, or maybe it was like late 2010s. I was trying to understand like what these sanctions were. So this is, what is this? This is 1976, 2024. Okay, so this is Iran's GDP. I know GDP is fake. Fine, whatever. But it's for these purposes, we'll just use it. You can see here you could see this relatively quick, big growth, and even during the war, it's probably war economy. And then as the war dies down, it dips down. You have this malaise. I think the first versions of sanctions go around this time. Maybe not actually. Maybe sanctions are after anyways, it doesn't matter, because even then oil prices go up, the famous oil price spike of the 2000s. And you can see what it did to the Iranian economy, reaching 600 billion, 600, no, trillion? No, not trillion. It would be billion.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be trillion. It would be billion. to the point where it reaches 600 billion in mid 2000, I think in like 2012. These sanctions kick in 2012, and between 2012, I think, to 2020, which is the peak of so-called maximum pressure, you have this huge, colossal, genocidal dip. GDP 50% from what you can see, from what we can see. Now it's gone up considerably since then. It's gone up, and I wonder about these stats. It's gone up. It has not caught up to where it was in 2012, according to this chart, which is old, which is like 2024, and might be interesting now. But that's to give you a sense. And then here's a different one, just to give you a sense of 2001 to 2024. You just get this, like, just appreciate this chart for how genocidal it is. Of like think of what weapon you need to wage this kind of war. Because this is hybrid warfare in a graphic. I mean, really, it's the most advanced siege of all time, probably. Until Russia 2020, but even then Russia's different because Russia is so massive and it's a much different world. 2020 Russia versus, or 2020 versus 2000 mid 2010s. Which is a much different world. So Iran had effectively engaged the global economy, and right when it was like most exposed, the U.S. set this huge violent siege set on trap, secondary sanctions, all that bullshit. And this is something that people need to remember when they think of like what's at stake in all of this. There's no bomb that can do this kind of damage that the US has. Even if they nuked Iran, you can't do this. You can't race 30%, 150% of the economy in a decade. That is a tool that God himself doesn't have. And yet they were able to do this because really they were using the entire force of the US world system against Iran, right? And so that's what I want to go back to the original question of like, why do this? Why give this up? Now, Iran, you can see something happens in 2020. Gee, I wonder what's happening in 2020 and now that this is all before the latest sort of upheaval, that like maybe a new world is being born, maybe that the US in the same period as it was going after Iran was going after another country called China, and that didn't work out as well because that country had the ability to not only withstand economic warfare, but also what's happening now is an acceleration of what we're beginning with the Chinese sort of basically realizing that they don't have a viable trade partner in the US or a viable, let's say, global hegemon partner in the US for whatever era is supposed to be coming. And yeah, they began the separation. I believe that 2020 era is the kind of separation era. And I believe that Iran and China getting closer. I mean, 2019 is when they signed that pact anyway. So this might be a 25-year pact. So that might be a direct influence of that. Now, I know GDP doesn't tell the exact story. There's a lot
It's not just
going on.
GDP though. It's the fact that it's dominated in dollars, right? So that you can. There's a similar graph that shows China kind of going down. But then, can you put up the graph I put up? It's energy consumption.
Oh, I wanted to. Okay.
So you can see like even for that time period. So, like that graph works within that frame where it's GDP. Let's admit that's flawed, but it's also denominated in dollars. And then Iran was like unable to do stuff in dollars, so it's necessarily like not capturing a lot of other economics. So, in 2018 or whatever, Sri Lanka was trading tea for oil. That's not captured in like whatever that measure is. They were probably doing whatever in yuan. They were doing like equivalent stuff in other currencies. So it works within if you have a stable system, right? But and you're right that it's a weapon of war. But sanctions to me is just the white word for sieges. These are acts of siege warfare. And you look at what they did to Iraq, and that killed, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of people. And then Madeleine Albright said, like, if X amount, someone asked her if it killed X amount of people, would it be worth it? And she was like, yeah, X amount of children. So it did work like that. But the problem with siege warfare is if you besiege more and more of the world, then suddenly you're under siege, So they pushed more and more of like Asia together. So that weapon has become less. If you're isolating just Iran from a world economy, that's fine. But then you're also isolating Iran, Russia, China, and then tariffs on everybody else. So then you're the one under siege. and again, that measure, GDP and dollars, is bifurcating from the reality of an economy which is energy use. And you can see that in Iran, you can see that in China.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say something a little bit similar. Can you put the graph there in the chat? Is the one that goes. I've seen Ratansi. Do you see it?
Oh, hold on. Oh, I see. Okay, give me.
Yeah. So, basically, human activity is expanding energy in the world. So, if you really want to measure what a society is doing, how its economy is going, you can't measure it with dollars anymore, because that's just fake money at this point. You have to measure energy production, energy consumption, right? So there's a little, can you put it? It's a little video, right? Oh, that went fast. So the red one is China rising, and you see the US, and the US is actually staying stagnant, and China is orders of magnitude above.
So when
the
does it cross? Is it around 2008? Yeah, 2000.
Oh,
yeah, so I think the U.S. economy actually collapsed in 2008, and it's been like weekend at Bernie Madoff's ever since.
Right. And
You like that,
Bernie,
Mikey?
I thought you were going to say at Bernie Sanders, but
It's
it's
good
kind
one.
of the same, right? And the US left has been weakened at Bernie Sanders ever since. And if you look at the second one was just published yesterday, I think, by Ehsan Safarnejad, whom we had for a great conversation on our podcast, which you should, of course, listen to. And Iran so it's the last one. So Safarnejad, I don't know if you can put it up. Basically, Iran has been putting up energy production by like 12 or 13% over the past year. So that's quite amazing. Like, if you can put this up. So a siege, if you go back to the idea of the siege, there is, of course, what you're saying, Brother Indica. After a while, you'll be the one isolated by all the countries you're putting under siege. And today it's 1/3 of the countries that are under US sanctions, I believe. But the other point of this is you can lay siege to a city. You can lay siege to Gaza. And even that is not that totally easy. But you can't lay siege to a whole country. If you lay siege to one country, the country will reorganize itself, reorganize its political economy, and be kicked out of this neoliberal dependency system towards self-sufficiency, towards food self-sufficiency, towards engineering, scientific self-sufficiency, towards military self-sufficiency. The greatest thing that we've discovered about Iran is that, people have been complaining, the Russians aren't helping, the Chinese aren't helping. And some people were saying, some Chinese, some Russians said, actually, they don't want help. And the truth of the matter is they probably did not want help because they were developing their own indigenous technology, which is up there. Like in terms of missile, Iran has stuff no other country on the planet has. And they're also telling us they've got surprises in store, and I believe they have surprises in store. And if you want to really get a sense of this, there is a great paper, a red paper number 2 of our friends at the Anti-Imperialist Scholars Collective. I put the link in there also. Sina, can you see it? Just come out today, and it really tells us, what was specific about Iran. And to get back to AI for a minute, the problem is that, one of the things that AI did is the Zionists flooded the world information space with fake Zionist propaganda. They created all those fake websites nobody sees, but they get scooped up by the AIs, including the Chinese ones.
Yeah, like the Hezbollah website is like a Zionist one. I was confused.
And
Hezbollah.org.
But this is on a bigger scale, right? So that when you ask an AI about the situation in West Asia, now the AI will return Zionist propaganda. So what the AI couldn't tell you, and it starts projecting those Orientalist caricatures about Iran, right? What it couldn't tell you is what this analysis in the red paper of the Anti-Imperialist Scholars Collective will tell you. is that Iran has actually been organizing both militarily with its range of alliances, the unity of fields of independent partners in the axis of resistance, but that support one another and learn from one another. It's more a sharing of knowledge than it is a proxy a proxy relationship like you have in an imperialist relationship, because in the imperialist relationship, you never want your proxy to have what you have. You never want them to have the knowledge. You never want them to be self-sufficient. You want them to remain dependent on you, whereas the axis of resistance is not like this at all. So they're always sharing, always learning from one another. Recently, a commander from the Hizb was killed by the Zionists, and he had been the guy who had helped the Yemenis with some of their missile stuff. And so there's this circulation of knowledge, which is already a new way of interacting with one another. It's already a prefiguration of a anti-imperialist multipolar world order, as they call it in this paper, right? And you have a resistance economy where they detail in this paper really that Iran is organized for, has organized a political economy of sovereignty, with the finance sector being state control, of course, the defense sector, and self-sufficiency in food. And although, many people say it's become neoliberal, it really hasn't become neoliberal, because it hasn't privatized everything. It hasn't reduced social services. It hasn't turned every enterprise into a financialized, shareholder maximizing thing. Enterprise, I was going to say again, sold to the highest foreign bidders. So you had the information there, but they can't see it. I mean, you could say in a way AI as conceived by the West, because again, it depends how you use the tool. If you use it as something to grow tomatoes, then it's going to be super useful. But if you use it as something to do your thinking, especially when you're already infected by the supremacist mind virus, in which you believe that only white people somehow are intelligent, so the creations of white people are going to be more intelligent than whatever the brown people can come up with, you're just hoisting yourself on your own petard. And one last thing to finish with the tables turning, just and this was something very I forgot the point, but there, do you see the one that said, every time it looks like the US will start again? Talking of the tables turning in the past, I don't think you would have seen this kind of propaganda from one of the targets of empire, and everybody watches it. If you can play it, Brother Sina, and people go, oh yeah, that's right. And hopefully that will happen. So that's one of the creations of our brothers at Explosive Media in Iran. And I think the legend is something every time Trump says he's going to attack.
Can you give me a second to load it? I want to download it and not have a screen share. So give me a second.
Okay, that'd be great.
And I think in the West, they've used AI to sort of inflate a bubble. They've treated it like they discovered virtual slaves. So it's like the South Sea bubble again. Whereas in other parts of the world, they're just like discovering a can opener. So you're not going to like immediately use that like on your base your whole economy around.
Yeah, well, they also, I think it's like Benji mentioned, it's a tool, right? And it's the way that the tool is applied, right? Like a hammer can build a house, or it can cave in somebody's skull. And the West is using AI as a murder weapon, and China is using it to build and to advance society. And that's not to say that there aren't negative applications in, private companies in China doing, unsavory things with AI, trying to keep up with that race. But the CPC is definitely clamping down. They're disciplining AI in the same way that they've disciplined global capital. And I think that's really notable and I think admirable. And I think what we could all use a bit more of is AI with Chinese characteristics.
No, and the funny thing is, like in the US, the government is throwing huge amounts of capital into data centers, into subsidizing it. Whereas in China, the AI is effectively operating in a resource-starved environment where they have to get the most out of like whatever chips they have. They have to get the most of whatever energy they have. They're not. There's way more like state control of AI in the US than there is in China. Yeah, the whole economy is a pump and dump. Like we are in the pump,
Yeah,
and like
that's
we're like waiting for
yeah.
the dump.
I mean, that's the thing is that we have to. This earlier you were talking about Goodfellas, and ordinarily I'd agree with you. But the thing is that like the problem with that metaphor is that there's a lot of powerful people who are dependent on that restaurant. Let's say, like to continue that metaphor, like there's a lot of the powerful people who need the U.S. economy to keep going, and this adventurism in Iran, this disastrous Zio-American.
But don't you think the class structure of America has changed? Like,
well,
it's not the H.W. Bush era, right?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, it could be, but it's just strange to me that this will. There are so many costs to this, and I don't know. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe someone said this.
But
Said this. It's not. Maybe it's not supposed to be rational.
Look at
Maybe
the
that's
class
whole
structure,
point.
though.
Yeah.
Look at the class structure. So you used to have industrialists who like built railroads and I don't know stuff. They built things. And then that class structure of the ruling class changed. And if you look at where educated people have been going for the past 30, 40 years, they don't go into engineering or something. They go into finance. So the class structure has changed where more and more people are in effectively like the mafia now, and less people are in the actual restaurant business. Look at the restaurant business. It's taken over by like Cisco. So everybody's reheating Cisco food. And then those things are run by private equity. So restaurants are not run by like restaurant owners, they're run by private equity now.
Yeah, and you see it in the aerospace industry or whatever. Used to be run by engineers and is now run by those financial engineers. But then the next step up is because nobody understands the tools anymore. Like AI is the perfect example. Then it's the dawn of the scammers. Because it's the people who talk the tools biggest who are going to get all the money to themselves. And nobody is able to say, oh, that's a lot of bullshit because, an engine doesn't run that way. And the things are so complex, nobody understands them anymore. And those who understand them aren't able to explain them. And the only ones who are able to sell them are the scammers. This is why you get the Sam Altmans of this world and the Elon Musk. I mean, Elon Musk, people believed he was a inventor on the scale of Nikola Tesla or whatever. The guy is just an absolute complete scammer. He has no idea about any of the stuff he talks about. Anyone who's ever listened to Musk talk about any specialized subject who has any modicum of knowledge in this subject knows is an absolute scammer and is the
same thing for Sam Altman. Like Sam Altman did some like find a hot dog in your local area app or whatever, and then he's not like a mathematician or like an AI expert person.
Yeah, and the app was actually a disaster. Wasn't selling. The app was nobody was on the app. Exactly, nobody was on his app, and yet
and you can see the metaverse crypto. You could see they were fine. Like after 2008, they're like, how do we like poke this thing with a stick? Like how do we take Bernie Madoff to the party and like make him pretend like it's real? And they tried with crypto to find like a completely artificial economy. Then you could see they really tried with VR, and with AI they found like a scam that stuck, that let them push the bubble. But I mean, it's also bullshit. And how are we doing on the donations, by the way? I can show the cat if we get some.
I saw a few more. Let's show the video. So that video to me is telling us something. So every time Trump says, yeah, I might go, I might hit them like they've never been hit before. This is how Iranians go. And they're in the street every night. And that's another point in this great article in the Anti-Imperialist Scholars Collective. We are facing a people's war. Like you have a whole population mobilized to say it's enough. Let's kick that running dog out of the region. And speaking of this, I don't actually believe the US can let the Zionist colony go. Like, it's not that the Zionist colony controls the US, though the Zionist faction is very strong, but they need this base to have the lock on, brown energy. They just need it. And if they lose it, they lose everything. And I think they're smart enough to know this. And I don't see how, Tucker Carlson may have some influence or whatever, but I don't think they're going to be able to drop their precious Zio colonies. So, which means that for intents and purposes, it's as if the Zio colony was running the empire, because it's become, an essential part. It's the last log they have, but do they even have it anymore? That's kind of a bit of a zombie. A zombie. They used to call it a aircraft carrier on land, right? But we know aircraft carriers are.
Yeah, Biden called it that. Yeah.
Are the
Sina,
weapon? Are the weapon?
Sina, were you
going to
say something? Sorry.
Well, I was watching the video. It was about the videos, because I think I've said this before in other episodes. Like the fact that Iranians emerged from this as masters of AI propaganda is just the cherry on top of all of this. Because if you've watched Iranian state TV before, it's not exactly, and what they do.
It's not hip. Let's say that.
Yeah, it's not the most riveting, and there is that and it's not even, and I don't even mean to say that in terms of to put it down. It's just that and I've said this on episodes recently, there's just simply no competing with the Western media machine. And in that kind of realm, Press TV doesn't stand a chance in terms of doing a kind of standard news network, a kind of 24-hour news. I mean, I'm not even sure if it's 24 hours. I think it is, but I meant more to say that the tool of these videos, and especially Lego, the combination of Lego, is that, I think I've talked about this before, is that it kind of bypasses or short circuits or racialization in a funny way.
Exactly. Yeah. They talk about that in that interview. Yeah.
Yeah. But then on top of that, they're not there's no dialogue, and that way you can basically communicate in these small catchy phrases, or catchy sort of looks that transcend the limits of, say, the writers of that, who don't have all the access to the latest idioms or whatever, that it could come out a bit stilted. Which is why Press TV, for all the great things that they do, is that's an Iranian sort of idiomatic version of English. Whereas the slopaganda, because it's from an AI, and because AI itself is this kind of middle of the road, it captures that kind of middle of the road tone to everything. It's AI, everything. Whenever I see a lot of it now because of Twitter, and you just run into it a lot, and you realize that it has this kind of, it's just this kind of it has this a very reminiscent, and I can almost pinpoint it, that it has the flavor of the prose is very sort of American West Coast, of a certain kind of simplicity, and you realize that that's one of the tools that these guys use, the explosive media guys, which is take these relatively straightforward but complicated political circumstances, and then translate them to these quick, digestible, cute, and very halal, by the way, forms of viral clips. I will make a confession here, and chat, you can rip into me. I actually only liked the first one. I've only really liked the first, and the first one I mean of this round, when the first one came out. The other ones are fine.
Zulfikar, the green one.
Yeah, the first, not, oh, sorry, not, I don't know the green one. The one where the guy was crying. It was the first kind of the first one of this war, because I think they had done it before, right? I think they had done it. Yeah, they started it after.
And the early ones, they said they were doing it for an Iranian audience.
Yes. Which, you watch Iranian TV, and there is a lot of AI slop. And it's not as good as the Lego stuff. A lot of it is watered down version of American sort of imitations of Pixar. So it looks like the Illumination Studios things. You can tell that Iranians have been watching This is what I wanted to say, that the way that Iranians are now regurgitating and and giving back to us what they themselves got for the last 20 years, and a lot of it being propaganda. And I realized that, like, holy shit, this is the story of the Shahhead, because Shahheads originated from the US. They were a result of like US goons flying around their expensive toys like Richie
Like
Rich.
the Reaper.
Yeah, like, and just flying it around in Iraq. And guess what happened? Iraq is full of lots of dudes who are loyal to Iran, and maybe, who knows, probably IRGC guys too, who have their own toys, and like stupid dumbass from like whatever base is there to demonstrate his toys, and then suddenly, we lost our toy, and then you can just write it off or whatever. But the US seeded Iran's drone program in a very real way. So this is more, I was thinking that like the Iranians sort of are using the tools that the US leaves behind, and to then feed it back to them, because this is like, you can only do so much with like Marandi and like Fouad Zadi and like Helia, and like you can only talk to people so much, because first of all, they don't even get broadcast by freaking Zionist goon media. But then on top of that, Americans, you can't tell them things straight. They don't listen. They don't have like the brain. I don't know. They don't have like the brain power, attention span.
No, but they've all read Tocqueville, right? They've all read.
Yeah, they've all read Tocqueville. Yeah, but like, whereas this is like this viral stuff, it removed that tool, which is Orientalism, of like, oh, here's this disgusting Iranian guy and his stupid beard, and we're ready for him to like say something to us that we're already prepared to resist. So it has this neutralizing effect. I haven't read the interview with them. I really should.
You should. It's fascinating because they actually know the idioms, and so one thing they say is
American,
like,
right? He's kind of hyphenated.
No. The guy is.
He's Iranian American. I thought he's
no,
he's just Iranian. He's Iranian.
Yeah.
Okay.
But what he said was that,
and
and Benji can obviously tell it better than I can, but he said like they've been subject to so much propaganda. So Benji was asking him like, how did you learn about this? Did you study psyops? Did you? And he's like, well, we've been essentially the victim of psyops for so long that like we have a natural. He said, what did he say? He said we learn from like life basically, but their life. But it's like what you said, like by getting drones so much, they figured out drones. By getting like the drone of like this psyop media, they figured out how that works as well.
Yeah.
Return to sender.
What did Nietzsche say? You can only gaze so long at the abyss before the abyss gazes back at you or something.
And another thing that's really interesting with those guys is, that they're, you hear in the way he was talking, and it's pure Iranian, like, we had to submit the questions beforehand, because all the other interviews they had done, they were translated from Farsi. And this one, he asked us for the questions beforehand. So we sent the questions beforehand, and the ones that we'd send, he'd taken the time to actually work out his answers in English. And then we asked a few questions, like follow-ups that went, and then we used the translation from Navid at that point. So clearly not, not an Iranian American by any stretch. And actually said of their team, no one has ever been to America. And my policy is believe the Iranians, because so far I haven't seen them lie in very valuable ways. And another thing that was to me super interesting, and it shows in the interview, is that these are not government puppets. Like even the latest video, which maybe we'll watch at the end of this, shows that they have their own views on stuff, but they've really, I think people have been swept up in the effect of being bombed from the air, it's crazy, from the moment when they started doing this, which I think was in a colonial setting, I hesitate to say Tunisia or Libya. It was maybe the Italians who did it first, I forget, or the English. But it's always at the effect of, actually making the civilian population gather around their government. And it's had this effect in Iran, like literally the generation that was so influenced by all those Western channels are now joined at the hip with the old anti-imperialist generation. And they come to this fight really in mosaic defense style. Those guys were just doing it kind of in their basement and, in their own underground meme factories. And I think that's why they're so effective also, because, probably couldn't get that agility in terms of narrative warfare if you had to run it past a government department. I mean, look at the stuff the White House is putting out in response. It's laughable. I mean, it works maybe for that very small sliver of population left that's just, so high on MAGA Kool-Aid that they'd swallow anything. But everyone else looks at this stuff and goes,
Yeah, but I think they're literally running on empty. They're running on like what's left. So you see in the comments from like under the White House stuff or whatever, there are some people who still believe it. I click on all the Telegram ads I see just to see like what crazy people are thinking. And there's groups where people are talking about voting for Trump. Like, I'm going to support Trump. And I'm like, bro, like in what election? But they think he's like the God King that's going to go on forever. But there is that. But what they're really coasting on is the propaganda work they did 25 years ago. So like 9/11 was fantastic, and you make like Muslims look bad. In like when I was growing up, like the default villain was either Muslim or Russian in every form of media. And so that programming is still there. Now you're seeing Muslims that are like, nice,
cool,
normal people, and like actually in many ways cooler than you. But people are seeing that now, but you're getting the residual effects of the propaganda of decades. But they're running on empty in the propaganda sense, and they're literally running on empty in the fuel sense as well. And we're all just here with the stick, like poking it, like die already.
and I'll say one last thing on this interview. Don't just watch it. Read the comments, right? There are 400 comments, and 98% of them are like, oh my God, you opened our eyes. We had no idea about Iran. And you'll see in the interview, I take a little bit that role of the, white guy. Oh my God, you had all this, all this. How do you know this? And some people go, oh yeah, do you think Iranians are kind of, backwards or whatever? But yes, collectively in the West, we did think that, we do think that. And this, that mosaic narrative warfare is changing our collective views of Iran in a way that, hadn't been seen since forever, I'm sure.
And that's true. I'm ashamed to say, like, I also was like surprised by Iran. I shouldn't have been, but like I was surprised. Wait, this all four of us guys. There can't be any silence. Come on, we all.
I will say, I in terms of because there is a question here for in terms of how to place these Lego videos and the kind of narrative role, because remember that much in the same way that Iran is fighting like David and Goliath against not just the US empire and the rat colony, but also the sort of Arab meat shield around both of those. So
sorry, but that's great. Rat colony and meat shield. Okay.
yeah, the Arab pedo meat shield. This is the most, and remember that meat shield is a money printing machine that fuels the most vicious anti-Iranian propaganda machine like ever arranged. Like literally, I'm pretty sure. I maybe chat can confirm this for me if there's any like resistoid scholars in there. I'm pretty sure that Iranians flexed with the Saudis and said like call off. I think it was basically to the effect of call off your attack dogs, and because we'll do something about it. Basically sort of making a veiled threat against a specific network, which is Iran International, which Saudi Arabia during the sort of the worst days of their recent legion before the sort of Chinese organized reconciliation, which is like 2 years ago now almost. Before that, Iranian relations with Saudi Arabia were really bad. And one way Saudi Arabia flexed on Iran was to fuel this really brutal and extremely highly produced like media machine, diaspora media machine. So it's not just that Iranians themselves inside the country are like, this is probably the most advanced media, like a counter-revolutionary media machine in the planet. because I just simply don't think there's enough Cubans to justify that. And from what I mean, mind you, I don't watch Russian stuff, but from what I can tell, because you would get a lot more of it in English, but there's nothing like it in the Russian language sphere and the sort of the Russosphere in terms of that. There is pro-Ukraine, obviously, stuff, but that's separate. That's like has its own lineage. But in terms of like straight up regime change propaganda, I don't think, and especially Chinese, the Chinese don't even compare. It's
Yeah, Arab satellite TV is like another world, and like Arab uncles have that stuff on all the time.
Oh yeah, and it's all anti-Iran. Iran is being anti-Axis, anti-Iran, anti-Hezbollah, anti-Yemen. This was like the centrifugal act, like all the actors came around this point. It was like the anchor point of all of these different things. So Iran, I'm pretty sure said like, you have to stop funding this. And that's when the Israelis basically took it over, and it got moved, I want to say from somewhere to London. I don't remember now. I think it's still London, but their fiscal sponsor changed, and it's still unclear how much it costs. Their budget is private, but these are not normal. Like no other media sphere, language, or sort of cultural sphere has this level of investment, and all of this is geared towards it's all pulling on the same regime change rope. So
it's the same thing as the aircraft carriers, right? It's gotten blown up by like digital Shaheds.
Yes, but exactly. You took it out of my mouth. Thank you. Like these dudes, like a couple of dudes working out of an office, like a team of them, just like kind of making it up as they go along, are running circles around this vast, massive intermediate. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a beautiful symmetry to all of these different. Like, Iran is truly the underdog in so many ways. Like, this is the most. Like this is hilarious. I've never thought of it this way. Not only did we like steal their glory, we even stole David and Goliath. Like when they think David and Goliath, they won't think the biblical story. They'll think Iran fighting off the US, Israel, and European powers and the Arab meat shield all at once, and reorganizing and breaking the siege, the suffocating chokehold that was basically like genocidally assaulting her people. So like in these days, like I can't underestimate, like I have to just say it over and over again. Iran had to do something audacious to break out of this situation. Like that chart that I showed, like you are like, put yourself in the shoes of martyr Sayyid Ali Khamenei. Like you are looking at this scenario. Like, how do I get out of this hopeless fix? The US economic world order isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Right? Like countries aren't going to, like, I can't just push a button. There's no missile that can hit the US petrodollar, right? Like there's nothing that can damage that. So you're watching all of that, and you're watching your country starve. You're watching, say, like the costs of feeding, like, average family, like quadruple or whatever. You're seeing inflation rise. You're seeing your sources of currency dry up. You're seeing you're forced to trade oil for tea like it's the 14th century. Like you can't like feed an economy with tea, like especially a country that already like has a lot of it from other sources.
Iranians drink a lot of tea though.
Yeah, well, it's true. I mean, it's in that moment, but it's hard to exist outside of the capitalist machine, and in some ways Iranians were forced to do that, which is why like that GDP chart I said chart, I'm so tired. That GDP chart I showed earlier, Iranians specifically hid their GDP, and that's why it fell so much, because it had to evade sanctions. But now, so you like now the son of like now you're Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei, and now they killed your dad, they killed your family members, they killed leadership. What do you do? Right? You still face the same much bigger problem, by the way. I mean, as evil as it was killing Rahbar Khamenei, like the leader, that the siege was still a much more violent weapon. Then it was still ongoing. So how do you not only respond to that, but break the siege? You do something audacious. You make a break for it, and you establish a new set of rules. You fundamentally alter the nature of the region by simply saying, like, drawing a line and saying, okay, because you broke the rules, we're setting new ones. So that's really like, it's not that they turned the tables, is that the US busted the table and Iran was like, thanks, and they just put a new table down, and now nobody can touch that table for the rest of time. Like, just
and
think about that. Like, that's like, they now wrote a ticket for Iran's future in one afternoon. Like, he lost his dad. Mojtaba Khamenei lost his dad. And then he wrote, in a sense, him and like the people underneath him enacted a strategy, which, albeit was long prepared, they knew this was happening. This was the plan years in advance, which is why strategic patience, was a thing this whole time, is that you wait for them to move. You wait for them to do the stupid thing, which opens a door for you to bust through and take your people with you. And so I don't know, I get myself worked up in these moments thinking about the gravity of all this, and really, like, a new world is being born. Iran is midwifing it. Its allies are right there with her fighting this war. We haven't even heard from the Yemenis in months, which, if I were like a Red Sea ship captain, I would be like, oh my God, what do we have in store next? I just got out of Hormuz. What am I going to do? I need to get to I need to like get out of here. But this is the thing, like, the world that the imperialists want to run exists with all these other human beings on it. And those human beings have weapons, and those weapons can be aimed at those precious resources that those imperialists need. So this is the game where we are now. Like, that global, that perpetual peace that Western imperialism needs. Iran can send a little drone, 7,000. People are always like, oh, 20,000, 50,000. I've heard numbers as low as $7,000. Iran can send a $7,000 drone made God knows where, in some basement somewhere, and set it and hit weaponry and machinery and tools and communications tools worth hundreds of millions. Like, you can't, that's a checkmate. That is the greatest of all checkmates.
Yeah, and that worth is like inflated, right? So they're saying it's worth that. Like, it's actually not worth that. It's denominated in dollars, but as you can see, it's kind of worthless. If you're trying to accomplish a task and you do it with something that cost $1 million, but it delivers $300 in value, it's not worth $1 million. You just spent $1 million on it, but the value of it is still 300. I've been watching Hezbollah blow up Iron Dome stuff with FPV drones. That Iron Dome stuff is not worth what they paid for it. It's a different paradigm. It's like talking about some like antiquated. It's like, like I used to have a Sony Trinitron TV. It was like it was a great TV, but like it's not worth what I paid for it anymore. Like it's the model has changed. The model of warfare has changed, and it's not just a new world, right? It's a return to the old world. So when we talk about Hormuz being closed, it's open for Iran. And when you talk about Iran has broken the siege for themselves, and now everybody else is under siege. But from their perspective, they're doing better than economically. They're doing better than before. And I think Khamenei the Elder knew this, and he certainly knew what sacrifice would be involved. And I do think they made every effort to actually like avoid subjecting their people and us to all of this. But they were also not unprepared. Come on, Mikey, you've been nodding. You got thoughts. Let's go.
Yeah, well, one might venture to call the Iron Dome anachronistic.
Well, I mean, the Iron Dome, all of their technology is based on the idea that it won't be tested that much. Like, even the bases around the Gulf are based on the idea that like you won't need to use them. Nobody will actually
attack it. Yeah.
It's like the bouncer at a club, like Sina was saying. Like, the bouncer at a club is not an army. He can't actually overcome more than 3 people. It's just based on the idea that you won't get more than 3 people running at it.
Yeah, because most of the people going there aren't stupid and looking for a fight. Like, that's the reality. It's like the bouncer is there as this performative thing. But that's the thing. The US empire needed to be there as the bouncer but the club itself was its own economic base, right? It had all this expensive toys that it needed to protect. And it turns out you can't protect expensive toys. And now you can't remake them. And now you can't move them in. You can't use them. God knows how many dead they're hiding. No, this is Sorry, Mikey. Go ahead.
No, yeah, I think Indy, what you just said about the Israeli defense system, like how it's not designed to be tested, I think that could easily just be said about the entire like Western financial system writ large. And I think what we're starting to see is those real life stress tests on various scales kind of asserting themselves upon this system that can't withstand even the slightest stress test. And I think I want to go to a small scale kind of test that a lot of CEOs speaking at commencement ceremonies have endured. This I just think it's fascinating.
The Google guy, no.
No. This is a CEO of a huge record company. It's my favorite because his speech is also clearly written by AI. If you're familiar with kind of the cadence and the syntax of AI like write-ups.
Wait. Oh, was I supposed to show something? Sorry.
Are you hearing this? Yeah. Okay,
No, we're not. I think you're just listening to it yourself. We can't hear it.
Streaming.
Oh, you can't hear it?
No, now we can hear it. Now we can hear it.
Okay. All right.
Streaming rewrote the economics. Social media rewrote the discovery model. AI is rewriting production as we sit here.
That's such an AI sentence.
He's talking in bullet
I know
points,
it.
yeah.
Deal with it. Like I said, it's a tool.
And he told the AI,
Hey,
write like a human.
like I said, you can hear me now or you can pay me later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, then do something about it, okay? It's a tool. Make it work for you.
I love these fucking CEOs is like,
Do you wanna send me the
kill
link?
me,
I'll post
please.
it.
Please kill me. Like,
Yeah. He's going up like being
And
like
they're
Luigi
acting,
me.
You're the tool.
But Eric Schmidt did the same thing. Eric Schmidt went to some commitment, the Google guy who's like now like an arms dealer. But like he went to some commencement speech, and then people were booing him because these guys are like. So in any normal country, you're not going to be like, "Hi, we're using this to like take away your jobs and like blow up the base of the economy, which is you spending stuff." They're like, "Well, how do we use this for social harmony or for anything useful for humanity?" But I guess look. But that's the difference. Like
is out of control.
Yeah, like so the empire is run for corporate beings. It's not run for human beings, and it's run for that, making that artificial line go up and their metabolism go up and their production rate go up. It's not meant for human reproduction. You can see from like Korea where they're like entering negative land. It's not meant for human well-being. It's like, what do you put at the what do you use these tools for? Like what animal are you feeding? Are you feeding humans and our animal relatives, or are you feeding these artificial animals?
And when we talk about anachronistic, another thing that's anachronistic on the macro level, it's imperialism. It's like people coming from 10,000 miles away and telling you how to live your life according to their standards, because that was possible when Western Europeans and the settlers they sent all over the world had a monopoly on military technology, and they've totally lost it, and they've lost the will to study hard and to get to discover stuff and stuff. So it's impossible now for them, it's anachronistic for them to keep on going around the world and say, well, we know exactly how to, what's the matter? Don't you understand English? And that's just not flying anymore. And someone in the chat was asking, do we think there is a chance that the liberals might go a little bit social democratic in the belly of the beast to, for one more turn on the merry-go-round? Honestly, I think that ship has sailed. I mean, the only reason why they did it was because of the threat of communism, and they hated every single day of it, including FDR, who was a just did it to save capitalism, and they hated it so much that they would rather kill the working class in the belly of the beast than
All the
concede
political parties are being
anything at
busted
all.
out.
Yeah.
Like all the political parties are being busted out also. They're all been like leveraged buyout by the same people. They're all being busted out. Like you look at the Liberal or whatever is the Liberal, no, Labour in the UK, that's taken over by like the opposite of Labour. It's taken over by corporations. You look at the Democrats and like they're all like just paid off. They're all it's a bust out of every institution, from Toys R Us to your local restaurant to your government to your political parties. They're all owned by like the white word for oligarch is private equity. They're all owned by private equity, aka oligarchs, and those guys don't own anything. They're just stand-ins for capital.
Yeah, they're basically gonna strip every institution on the way out for parts, right? They're gonna rip the copper and the fiber optic cable out of the walls. They're gonna steal all the furniture. They're gonna take all the snacks. They are really just maximizing short-term profit in the collapse and ironically accelerating the collapse of U.S. empire. And I think that's why these CEOs have the fucking balls to go to a commencement speech and basically tell
Streaming
every
rewrote the
youth
economics.
there. Yeah.
Social media rewrote the discovery model.
Just his tone, though. That's his own
AI
tone.
is
That's like a
rewriting
real
production
dickish tone.
as we sit here. I know
Basically,
it.
like, we're
Deal with it.
foreclosing
Like I
upon
said,
your
it's a
future,
tool.
motherfuckers. Like,
Hey, like I said, you can hear me now.
But this
or you
is
can
this
pay
is
me
the
later.
boomer attitude, right? They had like a certain life which they got for whatever reason, and they're just
Hey,
like screwing
then
over
do
their
something
children
about
at
it,
every
okay?
opportunity possible.
It's a tool. Make it work for you.
yeah.
The thing-
And just one more point I wanted to make is that, by contrast, right, China is building the future and using AI to help build that future. And there's an article that came out early this year where there was this comparison where China is graduating 1.3 million engineering students per year, while the U.S. is graduating literally less than a tenth of that, 130,000, right, to 1.3 million.
And a lot of the
That's-
engineers I know just go into finance or like dumb shit for money.
Exactly. Or DOD, right? Or AI, AI slop, right? Not AI for engineering. And so, because that's not where the money is, right? And I think, and that's not just a population differential, right? Like China only has 4 times the amount of people as the United States. So, and the ratio to graduates there is 10-1. And I think that a lot of that is also going to be used to train AI, in China to make engineering, particularly like green technology, more efficient, right? And so I think China is going to start. I mean, they already have rapidly outpacing the U.S. in basically every economic sector, not just in green tech, not just in electric cars, not just in high-speed rail. I think in every sector, the U.S. is going to be on a slow and then rapid, sudden decline, and I think this is largely thanks to the resistance in West Asia, but also the parallel economic and political project that China has been working on for 3/4 of a century.
And I guess it's not just China's. So you can see everybody America's fighting, right? They're fighting Russia, they're fighting Iran. These are not the same economic system as China or the same ideology. But the real difference is there's like, what do you use any tool for? Not just AI, but what do you use your economy for? Do you use it for human needs and a society, or do you use it for corporate needs and money? And it's almost like a kind of basic idea, which I've had to relearn myself, right? Because when I came back to Sri Lanka, I was like pretty neoliberal in the head. But just the basic idea that government should do things for people, Reagan sort of said, we're going to run the government like a business, like the words you don't want to hear is, I'm from the government, I want to help. And that idea really is the governing philosophy, that you shouldn't really have a government, and that you should like have everything run by the markets. And you can see that now where the markets are running away, and then like your whatever things humans need. But it's really about who these tools are for. Is it for corporations? Is it for artificial life? Or is it for humans and, honestly, by extension, natural life?
Yeah. Yeah, the new U.S. guiding ethos, I think now is like fuck them kids. You know, like it's even more.
That's the boomer.
straightforward.
That's the boomer thing. Like fuck my kids. It's like your own kids.
Yeah.
No, but there's people who have
Talk
like
about
money
Epstein
and they're like
Empire.
no, but there's people that, like I've
Figured
seen like
it
on
out.
Reddit and so on. But there's people who like have money and then their kids are struggling and then they're like, well, I
Yeah.
gotta teach them a lesson. It's like what's the lesson, bro? Like
Yeah, I wish I could have trafficked them to Epstein, but now
Oh
I'll,
Lord,
I'll go for whatever's left.
Jesus.
Oh, boys, that might be a cue to begin wrapping things up.
Okay, if I can say one last stupid thing, the only thing that brother said in the chat, the only thing that they produce at scale is arrogance, but also, as we saw tonight, the famous American shit-eating grin. They're still pretty good at producing those.
I think it's getting less and less, man, because you just watch the beef price. The beef price is the thing to watch, and that's going up.
Yep.
Like we saw in Sri Lanka during our economic collapse, which is like protein substitution starts to happen. So people go from, I mean, we weren't eating that much protein anyway, but people go, I was doing some stuff with a sausage company for some reason, and then people stop buying sausages, and you could tell that they're going down to like lower grades of protein. So Americans are already starting to drop out of beef. I think the beef has locks on it at some of the supermarkets, and there's a breaking point.
It's got a GPS tracker chip inside.
Yeah, I mean that you can see that's like a metaphor, right? A chunk of ground beef with like a digital lock on it. That's what technology's been used for.
Another kind of economic indicator is the rising demand of hamburger helper. 15% up
Okay.
year over year.
What is hamburger helper? I forgot.
It's just macaroni and burger, but like in a pasta form. it's actually pretty
Okay.
good. I make
so,
mine from scratch. It's way better. But
Oh, it's like an MRE. It's like a military meal.
it's like an MRE. Yeah. No, totally.
Oh dear.
And someone in the
tables
comments
have
was
indeed
like,
turned.
I don't think at any point in the stream have we mentioned why Adnan isn't here.
Okay. Yeah, I'm the host here. I'm supposed to put you guys to bed because like this is going in every direction. And when Adnan comes home, I'm gonna get all the blame.
No, but we miss
So,
Adnan's like very like measured like dulcet tones. It's just like all wretched people.
Yeah.
That's
So, brothers and sisters, thank you very much for this very cultured, deep, longue durée conversation where I think we could have said a few more things about the link to the Crusades, but I guess that'll be for a future episode. We are, of course,
actually we should do a full Crusades episode just to piss Adnan off.
we are extremely thankful to. If you want to watch a great conversation about the Crusades, go watch Adnan on recently on Pascal Lotta Neutrality Studies. It was a great. I actually love listening to Brother Adnan talk about the Crusades. So, thank you very much. This was episode 17 of Epstein Empire versus Iran versus Epstein Empire, or as I like to call it, AOR versus AOE. Thank you very much, Brother Sina, for putting the show on the road, keeping it on the road, and staying with us for so long. I know it's way past your bedtime, and you've been
really is. I'm like
an
falling
absolute
asleep.
trooper tonight. So, eternal gratitude. And Brother Mikey, live from Hawaii. Thank you very much. It's such a pleasure to be doing those shows with you, and you're always there with the sharp analysis and my stratospheric wordsmith indica. Thank you as always. Thank you very much. Peace with justice and free Palestine. And of course, sweet victory to the free
Yeah.
people of the world.
My mom has like 8 of these. That's why this is like she's a dentist, and I always steal them whenever I go to her office.
Ooh.
He's like
So-
delirious.
You could take the
Just
teeth
puts it in
out.
a
Look,
bed.
you could take
Yes.
you could take
This is
the
what
teeth
happened-
come
This
out.
is what
You
happened
guys
when you
see that?
stretch
You guys
when you
see that?
stretch brother
That's
Sina
amazing.
past his bedtime. I
Yeah,
was actually
swift
forewarned of
bedtime
this.
to Sina.
Yeah. You know, Adnan said, whatever you do, don't go past 10 p.m. because that's when Sina goes off the rails. And I went past. Adnan, I'm so sorry, brother. It will never happen again. Meanwhile, again, thank you, the Undefeated Chat, for your amazing generosity towards Iman and Ibrahim. And let me try it once more. Normally, it finishes the show, but let's see if it works second time around. Free Palestine and swift victory to the free people of the world.
That to America.
That's what we were with.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم